The deployment lasted 9 months. When I came home, my key wouldn't turn in the lock. A stranger opened the door, my graduation photo still hung on the wall, but the deed now belonged to a shell company my parents had signed for. That night, I didn't cry. I opened my laptop, searched the county tax records, and found the debt choking the life out of their house. My name is Reagan Hart, and I learned to fly before I learned to trust. At 31, I'd logged over 3,000 flight hours in medical helicopters, first as a lieutenant with the 184th Aviation Support Brigade, now as a civilian pilot for Atlas Aeromedical. The house in Maple Ridge wasn't much a 2-bedroom ranch with original 70s wood paneling, but I'd bought it with my VA loan and 5 years of deployment savings. It was mine. The morning before my latest deployment, I stood in my kitchen watching my father, Dennis, measure the doorframe with his carpenter's tape. "Could widen this," he muttered, pencil behind his ear. "Open up the whole flow." My mother, Marla, sat at my table reconciling someone else's books. She did seasonal accounting for small businesses that couldn't afford full-time help. Their own finances were a different story. Maxed credit cards, a revolving loan from the hardware store, and a second mortgage on their place over on Sycamore Lane that reset to a higher rate every year. "You should let us manage things while you're gone," Mom said without looking up from her calculator. "Like before. 2 deployments ago. I'd signed a limited power of attorney so they could handle my bills. They'd paid them. Sure, 3 weeks late, incurring fees I discovered only after returning. This time, I'd already set up automatic payments. "I've got it covered," I said, checking my flight bag one more time. "Survival kit, medical supplies, backup radio batteries." Dad's tape measure snapped back into its case. "That contract work won't last forever. Reagan, military's the only steady thing you've got." They'd never understood that flying medevac wasn't temporary for me. To them, my career was just an extended delay before real-life marriage, kids, a husband's income to rely on. Mom had started leaving real estate flyers on my counter, all for properties closer to them. "For when you're ready to settle down." My cousin Travis chose that moment to walk in without knocking, cologne announcing him before his voice did. "Hey, soldier girl." He helped himself to coffee from my pot, leaving a ring on the counter. "Heard you're shipping out again." Travis ran schemes the way other people ran marathons constantly, breathlessly, always convinced the next one would be the big win. Last year it was cryptocurrency. Before that, house flipping with other people's money. He had a gift for paperwork and a talent for finding loopholes, but his deals always seemed to benefit everyone except his investors. "Just work," I said, zipping my bag. He exchanged a look with my parents quick, but I caught it. 9 months is a long time. Lot can change. "Not here," I said. "This place will be exactly the same when I get back." Mom closed her ledger. "You could at least give us emergency access. What if something happens to the house?" "The property management company has it handled." "Property management." Dad said it like profanity. "Paying strangers when you've got family." I'd learned to fly a Black Hawk in conditions that would ground most pilot sandstorms, mountain winds, enemy fire. But navigating my family's mix of need and entitlement required instruments I didn't possess. They saw my stability as a resource, my absence as opportunity. Travis pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. "You know, Reagan, with the market like it is, you could make a killing if you leveraged—" "No." The word hung there. Travis shrugged, shared another one of those looks with my parents. Mom stood, gathered her papers. "We should go. Let you get ready." They filed out. Dad, last, pausing at my door. "That key still under the ceramic frog." "Property management has the spare." I lied. I'd removed the hide key months ago. After they left, I walked through my small house, checking windows, setting timers. In the second bedroom I used as an office. My deployment papers lay next to my will, insurance documents, and the deed to this house all secured in a fireproof safe they didn't know existed. The walls held my certificates, my medals, a photo of my air crew in Afghanistan. This was my proof of existence, My claim to space in the world. I locked the door, tested it twice. As I drove away, I didn't look back. If I had, I might have seen Travis's truck parked 3 houses down, him on his phone, probably already talking to Mom about possibilities, about opportunities, about what 9 months could mean when someone wasn't watching. The helicopter engine's warm-up sequence was more honest than any conversation with my family. Every gauge, every indicator told the truth. Lift required power. Power required fuel. Fuel was finite. Simple equations with clear outcomes. I hung my flight helmet on the ready hook and headed for the departure gate, leaving behind the smell of motor oil that seemed to follow my father everywhere, the scratch of my mother's pencil on paper, the weight of their unspoken plans. The deployment stretched like scar tissue, 9 months of dust storms and mechanical failures, of landing zones marked by chemical lights, of blood that wouldn't wash out of the deck plates. I flew out the wounded and flew in supplies, the turbine's whine becoming my heartbeat. In the cockpit, everything made sense. Power, torque, altitude numbers that didn't lie. While I was gone, my parents and Travis were busy with their own flight plan. The forgery was almost good. Travis had studied my signature from old Christmas cards, practiced the way I curved the R in Reagan, the sharp slash through the T in Hart, but he didn't know I'd changed it slightly after a hand injury 3 years back. My cross on the T now tilted left, invisible to anyone who wasn't looking. The notary he'd found through a friend didn't ask questions when my mother presented the power of attorney. Claimed I'd signed it before deploying. The seal made it official. The lies made it profitable. Maple Shore Holdings LLC came to life in a Delaware filing, Travis as the managing member, buried under layers of paperwork that would take a forensic accountant to untangle. The offer on my house was quick, below market but cash urgent buyer, closing in 2 weeks. My parents signed as my representatives. The title company processed the documents. The new owners moved in before I'd even started my journey home. I landed at Peterson Air Force Base on a Tuesday, 3:45 p.m. The Colorado sun felt wrong after months of desert glare. My truck started on the 3rd try battery, nearly dead but holding on. The drive to Maple Ridge took 40 minutes. I knew something was wrong when I turned onto my street and saw the rose bushes I'd never planted. My key slid into the lock but wouldn't turn. I tried again, felt the pins resist. The door opened from inside a woman, maybe 40, wearing scrubs. Behind her, I could see my living room transformed, new furniture, different paint. But there on the wall, my graduation photo from flight school. The one thing they hadn't changed. "Can I help you?" she asked. "This is my house." Her face shifted from confusion to alarm. "I think there's been a mistake. We bought this house 2 months ago." 2 months. I'd been in the air, running casualties to combat hospitals, while they were signing my life away. She let me see the paper's sympathy overtaking suspicion when she saw my uniform. Maple Shore Holdings LLC had sold to her and her husband. Clean title, warranty deed. The signatures were perfect. My parents' names as authorized representatives under power of attorney. Dated a week before I deployed. The document I'd never signed. At the county recorder's office. I traced the chain of title like following a blood trail. Original deed to me. Power of attorney filed by Dennis and Marla Hart. Quit claim deed to Maple Shore Holdings. Sale documents to the new owners. Each document stamped, sealed, legitimate in the eyes of the law. The clerk behind the bulletproof glass watched me photograph each page. "Military?" she asked, noticing my tactical watch. "Yeah. There's protection for service members. Fraud during deployment. You should talk to JAG." JAG. The Service Members Civil Relief Act. Legal remedies that would take months, maybe years. Public fraud charges against my parents. Court dates and depositions while they played victims. Claimed misunderstanding. Maybe even believed their own story that they were helping, investing, protecting my interests. That night, I sat in a motel room that smelled like cigarette smoke despite the no smoking sign. Laptop open, learning a different kind of reconnaissance. Property tax records are public. Liens are public. Financial distress leaves tracks like aircraft on radar. Dennis and Marla Hart, 47 Sycamore Lane. Property taxes delinquent 2 quarters, $8,600. HOA lien for unpaid dues, $2,300. Second mortgage with Bright Financial. Adjustable rate, currently at 11%. Principal balance $47,000. 2 missed payments. I pulled up the sale price of my house. $190,000, cash, below market value by $40,000 at least. I found Maple Shore Holdings registration, followed the breadcrumbs to Sycamore Renovations LLC, another Travis creation. The money had moved in a circle from the buyers to Maple Shore to Sycamore Renovations to my parents' creditors. They'd used my house to pay their debts. Outside, rain hit the motel window like small arms fire. I didn't call them, didn't storm their house demanding answers. Instead, I opened another browser tab and started researching tax sales, foreclosure laws, and the beautiful, brutal mechanics of secured debt. In combat, we called it situational awareness, knowing the terrain, the enemy positions, the exit routes. They'd stolen my house while I was saving lives at 8,000 feet. But they'd left their own exposed hemorrhaging money, one default notice away from the auction block. I closed the laptop and lay back on the stiff motel bed. Tomorrow, I'd find a lawyer. Not to get my house back, that would come. But first, I needed to understand how to buy debt, how to position myself as a creditor, how to be the storm they never saw coming. Lena Corner sat across from me at a diner off Highway 24 Coffee Black, notebook filled with handwriting sharp as wire. Former military police. She now worked private investigations, skip traces, insurance fraud, the occasional divorce. She had the kind of face that made people talk without realizing they were confessing. Power of attorney fraud during deployment, she said, reading my documents. Seen it before. Usually it's spouses. Parents make it interesting. I pushed the forged POA across the table. Can you prove it's fake? She held it to the light, ran her finger over the notary seal. The notary's named Bethany Walsh, works out of a UPS store on Colfax. Travis brought her 3 other documents that same day, all real estate related. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. Security footage from the store. That's your mother presenting the document. You were already deployed. How did you? I asked nicely. She smiled. Then I asked with a subpoena threat. Store manager was cooperative. Bethany Walsh is currently reconsidering her career choices. The evidence was clean, surgical. Email threads between Travis and my parents, recovered from a laptop he'd sold to a pawn shop without wiping the drive. Need R to sign before she leaves, my mother had written. She won't do it, Travis replied. Then we make it happen another way. From my father, Lena traced the money like a bloodhound. Maple Shore Holdings received $190,000 from the buyers. Within 3 days, transfers went out $30,000 to credit card companies in my parents' names, $15,000 to Bright Financial for back payments, $12,000 to various medical bills, $8,000 to the IRS for back taxes. The rest disappeared into Sycamore Renovations LLC, then leaked out to hardware stores, contractors, and a new truck in Travis's name. They renovated their kitchen, Lena said, showing photos. Granite countertops, commercial grade stove, posted it all on Facebook. Your mom called it their dream finally coming true. Evan Rook, the veteran's legal aid attorney, operated from a strip mall office between a nail salon and a tax prep service. His desk was government surplus, his coffee maker older than my military career, but his wall displayed Victory's newspaper clippings about cases won, service members defended, fraudsters prosecuted. We can void the sale, he said, reviewing Lena's evidence. SCRA violations, fraud, forged documents, but it'll take months. The innocent buyers will fight it. Your parents will claim they thought they were helping. Travis will disappear behind his LLCs. I don't want to wait. He leaned back. Then we get creative. The plan unfolded like a tactical map. First, file the fraud claim with the title insurance company they'd have to investigate, possibly freeze the property. Second, approach Bright Financial about their second mortgage on my parents' house. Banks often sold distressed debt for pennies on the dollar. Third, Monitor the tax foreclosure list. You want to buy your parents' debt? Evan asked. I want to own it. Janet Pike from the county tax office had the kind of bureaucratic knowledge that could weaponize paperwork. Over lunch, she explained tax sales like teaching aircraft mechanics every part had a function, every process had a timeline. The property at 47 Sycamore Lane has been noticed, she said, pulling up the record. 2 quarters delinquent, plus penalties and interest. If they don't pay by next month, it goes to auction. County wants its money. Can other creditors bid? Anyone can bid, but creditors can use their debt as credit toward the purchase. No cash needed up to the amount owed. I met with Bright Financial's Asset Recovery Department the next week. The manager, a thin man named Harrison who looked like he subsisted on anxiety and spreadsheets, reviewed my offer. $47,000 principal, plus accumulated interest. You're offering $18,000 cash for non-performing debt on a property heading to tax auction. You can take my offer now or write it off as a total loss next month. He calculated something on his computer. $22,000. $20,000. And I need the assignment documents today. We closed in 3 hours. North Peak Capital LLC, my new entity, formed in Wyoming for privacy, became the proud owner of my parents' second mortgage. I now held a secured interest in their house, senior to everything except property taxes and the first mortgage. Lena pulled the renovation permits for Sycamore Lane, $40,000 in improvements, all filed after my house was sold. New kitchen, bathroom expansion, garage workshop for my father. The contractors were already filing liens for unpaid bills. They spent it all, she said. Every penny from your house, gone in 8 weeks. I studied the photos, my father installing cabinets, my mother directing tile placement, Travis posing with a beer by the new granite island. They looked happy, fulfilled, like they'd finally gotten what they deserved. The HOA president, Mrs. Calloway, agreed to meet after I mentioned the property's impact on neighborhood values. She brought 3 years of violation notices, letters about unpaid dues, complaints from neighbors. We're initiating foreclosure proceedings for the HOA lien, she said. Unless someone pays the $2,300 plus legal fees. I'll pay it, I said. But I want the lien assigned to my LLC. She studied me over her reading glasses. You're the daughter, the pilot. Yes. The one whose house they sold while you were overseas. Word traveled fast in Ridgefield. Yes. She slid the assignment papers across without another word. By the end of the week, I held 3 pieces of paper that together were worth more than weapons: a second mortgage, an HOA lien, and a reservation to bid at next month's tax auction. My parents owed me $70,000 they didn't know about. The house they'd renovated with my money was now leveraged against debts I controlled. Evan called it elegant. Lena called it karma. I called it physics equal and opposite reactions. Force vectors calculated for maximum impact. The tax auction was in 3 weeks. I marked it on my calendar, next to my return to work date at Atlas Aeromedical. Flying would keep me centered while I waited. In the cockpit, I could practice the calm I'd need when I faced them across a courtroom, or an auction floor, or their own doorstep when they learned who really owned their dreams. The text message from my mother arrived on a Thursday. Family celebration Saturday, 2 p.m. Travis helped us finish the renovations. You should see what we've done with the place. No apology for selling my house. No acknowledgement of the 9 months I'd been gone. Just an invitation to admire what they'd built with my stolen money. I replied, I'll be there. Saturday arrived gray and humid. I parked 3 houses down, watched the stream of neighbors arriving. Mrs. Calloway from the HOA walked up the driveway, gift bag in hand. Tom Dixon, who ran a local debt collection agency, pulled up in his Lexus. Perfect. Witnesses who understood property law and financial obligations. The smell hit me first: fresh paint mixing with wood stain and the chemical sweetness of new carpet. Mom had strung lights across the porch, the kind she'd always said were too expensive. Through the window, I could see the kitchen island, black granite with gold veining, where neighbors gathered around a spread of food I recognized from the expensive deli downtown. I walked in without knocking family privilege. Reagan. Mom's voice pitched high, performative surprise. You made it back safely. She hugged me, careful not to spill her wine. Pinot Grigio, the good stuff. $14 a bottle instead of her usual $7. Behind her, the kitchen gleamed like a showroom. Commercial-grade stove, soft close cabinets, backsplash made of hand-fired tiles. The receipts Lena had found totaled $38,000 for this room alone. Dad emerged from the garage entrance, sawdust in his hair, wearing a new Carhartt jacket. Come see the workshop, he said, like the last 9 months hadn't happened, like my house was still mine. The garage had been transformed into a woodworker's dream. Table saw, planer, dust collection system that cost more than most people's cars. The concrete floor had been epoxy-coated, tools hung on custom pegboard systems. A small brass plaque by the door read, Dennis Hart's Workshop, dated 2 months ago, when I was still overseas. Beautiful work, Tom Dixon said, appearing beside me with a beer. Must have cost a fortune. Got a good deal, Dad said quickly. Travis knows people. Travis materialized like a bad debt. Designer jeans and a polo shirt that still had the store crease. Hey, soldier girl. Good timing, we're just about to toast the new place. He handed me a beer I didn't open. Around us, neighbors admired the renovations, running hands over granite, complimenting the tile work. Mom gave tours like a real estate agent, pointing out the smart home features, the heated bathroom floors, the built-in wine fridge. The bathroom is spa quality, she told Mrs. Calloway. Steam shower, dual vanities, soaking tub with jets. Mrs. Calloway caught my eye. As HOA president, she knew about the liens, the missed payments, the house of cards built on stolen foundations. Impressive, she said carefully. Must be nice to finally have your dream home. We've worked so hard for this, Mom said. And for a moment, I think she believed it. I drifted through the party like reconnaissance, cataloging everything. In the living room, new furniture leather sectional, 60-inch TV, sound system that probably cost $5,000. The guest bathroom had been gutted and rebuilt with marble surfaces. Even the doorknobs had been upgraded to brushed nickel. In what used to be my childhood bedroom, now an office. I found Travis's laptop open. His email was still logged in. I took photos with my phone invoices from Sycamore Renovations to Maple Shore Holdings, dated the week after my house sold. Payments from my house sale funding every improvement around me. Finding everything. Travis stood in the doorway, that practiced smile not reaching his eyes. Just admiring the upgrades. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your parents needed this. They've been struggling for years while you were off playing hero. Family helps family. By stealing, by adapting, your house was just sitting there. We maximized its value. I pulled out my phone, showed him a screenshot the forged power of attorney. His face went pale. That's fraud, during active military deployment, federal crime. He grabbed my wrist. You don't understand. They were going to lose everything. They're still going to. I pulled free. Tax auctions in 2 weeks. What? Check the county website. I left him standing there, typing frantically on his phone. In the kitchen, Mom was explaining to neighbors how they'd invested wisely to afford the renovations. Dad showed off his workshop to anyone who'd look. The party swirled on, a celebration built on my foundation, my savings, my stolen home. I found Mrs. Calloway on the porch. The tax auction, I said quietly. Will you be there? Wouldn't miss it. The HOA needs resolution on this property. Tom Dixon joined us. Overhearing. Tax sale. This place. 2 weeks. I confirmed. Public auction. Anyone can bid. He whistled low. Your parents know. They're about to. I went inside one more time. Stood in the middle of their dream kitchen. Mom was refilling her wine. Dad laughing at something a neighbor said. Travis had disappeared, probably Googling tax law on his phone. Beautiful home, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Shame about the tax situation. The room quieted. Mom's hand stopped mid-pour. What tax situation? Dad asked. The auction. 2 weeks. Didn't you get the notices? The silence stretched like a held breath. Mrs. Calloway chose that moment to leave, others following, suddenly remembering appointments. The exodus was polite, but swift. Nobody wanted to witness the implosion. When we were alone, just family, Mom set down the wine bottle with shaking hands. Reagan, what are you talking about? Property taxes? 2/4 delinquent? The county wants its money. Travis said he handled that, Dad muttered, looking around for his nephew. With what money? I asked. You spent everything from my house on this. I gestured at the granite, the cabinets, the commercial stove. $190,000, gone in 8 weeks. Your house, Mom's voice pitched high. You gave us permission. No, I didn't. I left them standing in their renovated kitchen, under their designer lights, surrounded by improvements they couldn't afford. At the door, I turned back. 2 weeks, I repeated. Public auction, courthouse steps, 10 a.m. The drive back to my motel took 12 minutes. In my room, I spread out the documents: HOA lien, second mortgage assignment, tax sale registration, 3 angles of attack, all perfectly legal, all devastating. My phone buzzed with texts from Travis. We need to talk. This is fixable. Don't do this to family. I turned it off and opened my laptop to review Colorado tax sale procedures one more time. In combat, we called it pre-flight checking every system, every connection, every possible point of failure. 2 weeks until the auction. 2 weeks until they understood that stealing from someone who'd learned precision in life-or-death situations was the worst mistake they'd ever made. The title insurance claim hit their buyer like turbulence at altitude. Evan Rook had filed it with surgical precision fraud in the inducement. Forged documents, violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act. The title company, First American, launched an investigation that froze any further transactions on my former house. They can't sell it, refinance it, or even modify it without clearing this claim, Evan explained over the phone. The buyers are lawyering up. Good. Let them fight each other while I positioned my pieces. The second mortgage I'd purchased from Bright Financial came with acceleration rights, 1 missed payment, and I could demand the full balance immediately. According to the payment history, my parents hadn't made a payment in 3 months, too busy spending my money on renovation dreams. I filed the notice of default through certified mail, following Colorado statute to the letter, 30 days to cure the default or face foreclosure proceedings. The process server handed it to my father personally, at his newly renovated workshop, while he was showing it off to a potential client. What the hell is North Peak Capital, he'd demanded, according to the server's affidavit. They'd find out soon enough. The HOA lien assignment from Mrs. Calloway included not just the past due amount, but accumulated penalties, legal fees, and interest. $2,300 had grown to $3,800. Colorado law allowed HOA liens to supersede even first mortgages. In some cases, a beautiful technicality Travis had missed in his research. Consolidating everything under North Peak Capital created a creditor position worth $73,000, all secured by their house, more than enough to credit bid at the tax sale without spending a penny in cash. 3 days before the auction, Travis called from a blocked number. Reagan, we need to meet. No. I can fix this. I can get you your house back. The buyers won't sell. They're suing the title company and naming you, Mom and Dad, as defendants. Silence. Then, how do you know that? I know everything, Travis, including your 5 other LLCs, the fraudulent flips in Aurora, and the FBI complaint filed by your last partner. That's not... He stopped. What do you want? Nothing you can give me. Your parents could lose their house. They already lost mine. He tried another angle. I have documentation that could hurt them. Emails where they planned this. I have those too. Lena Kerner is very thorough. Who? The investigator who's been documenting everything for the last month. The one who found your laptop at the pawn shop. The one who has video of Mom presenting forged documents to the notary. The silence stretched. Finally, this will destroy them. They should have thought of that before deploying their plan. The Friday before the auction, I received an email from the title insurance company. They were prepared to settle, either void the sale and return the property to me, or pay out the full insured amount $230,000, the original purchase price plus my improvements. The innocent buyers were demanding the cash they wanted out of the tainted property. I had a decision to make: take the money and walk away, or fight for the principal. I called Evan. "Take the money," he advised. "Use it to bid at the auction if you want." Cash is power. The settlement would take 2 weeks to process. The auction was Monday. I'd have to use my creditor position for now, claim the cash later. Sunday night, my phone rang. "Mom." "Reagan, please, we just found out who owns the liens." And, "This is cruel. We're your parents. You were my parents when you stole my house, too. We were trying to help. The money was sitting there, my money, in my house, while I was flying combat medical missions. Travis said it was legal. The power of attorney was forged. Mom, you presented it yourself. There's video." Silence. Then, quietly, "We could go to prison." "Yes, you'd do that to your own family." I thought about the graduation photo still hanging in my stolen house, the ceramic frog where they'd expected to find my spare key, the 9 months of sandstorms and blood while they planned their renovations. "You did this to yourselves. I'm just the consequences." "Reagan." I hung up. The morning of the auction, I dressed in my Class A uniform, not for intimidation, but for clarity. This was who I was when they stole from me. This was who I remained. Lena met me at the courthouse with a folder of backup documentation. "Your parents are inside," she said, "with Travis and someone who looks like a lawyer. Probably Travis's friend from the strip mall, the one who notarizes without questions." Evan arrived, briefcase in hand. "First American wants to observe the auction. They're considering criminal charges against Travis." "Get in line." Janet Pike from the tax office nodded as we passed. "Everything's in order," she said quietly. "Your creditor position is verified." The auction room filled slowly. Tom Dixon was there, curiosity overcoming discretion. Mrs. Calloway sat in the back, notebook ready. A few professional property investors lounged in chairs, studying their phones. My parents huddled with Travis near the front, whispering urgently. The auctioneer, a bored-looking county employee, called the room to order at exactly 10 a.m. First property 47 Sycamore Lane. Minimum bid is $8,600 in back taxes, plus penalties and fees totaling $11,400. "Do I have an opening bid?" Travis stood. $11,400? $50,000, I said. Every head turned. My parents' faces went white. "I have $50,000, the auctioneer said, suddenly interested. "Do I hear 55? Travis whispered frantically with his lawyer friend. 55,000. 73,000. I held up my creditor documentation. Credit bid based on secured liens. The auctioneer examined my papers. Verified creditor bid of 73,000 from North Peak Capital. "That's our daughter," my mother shouted. "She can't do this. Ma'am, please sit down." Travis pulled out a cashier's check. 75,000. Cash. Where had he gotten that I noticed him texting frantically? Probably another investor, another scheme, another loan he couldn't repay. 80,000, I said. "I'll supplement my creditor position with cash." I had 7,000 in savings. The bluff tasted like copper in my mouth. Travis looked at his phone, shook his head at whoever was on the other end. "Pass. 80,000 going once, going twice." "Wait." My father stood. "That's our house. We live there." "Sir, this is a public auction. 80,000 third call. Sold to North Peak Capital." The gavel came down like a judge's verdict. My parents' house, built on the bones of mine, now belonged to my LLC. The eviction notice would arrive in 30 days. Just enough time for them to pack their renovations, their dreams, their betrayals into boxes and find somewhere else to live. I signed the papers, accepted the deed. When I turned around, my parents were standing there, My mother crying, my father's face carved from stone. "How could you?" Mom whispered. I pulled out my phone, showed them the photos from Travis's laptop, the emails planning the theft, the invoices showing my money funding their renovations, the forged signature, practiced and perfected. "You taught me everything I know about family," I said. "This is what I learned." The aftermath of the auction spread through the courthouse lobby like fuel vapor seeking a spark. My parents stood frozen by the elevator while Travis paced, phone pressed to his ear, trying to salvage something from someone. The other bidders filed past, some nodding at me with professional respect, others avoiding eye contact with my family altogether. "We need to talk," Dad said. His carpenter's hands clenched. "Evan's office," I replied, "with witnesses." We walked the 3 blocks in silence, my parents, Travis, their strip mall lawyer, Evan, and me. Lena followed at a distance, documenting everything on her phone. The November air bit sharp, but I'd flown in worse. Evan's conference room was too small for the weight of what would happen there. Travis's lawyer, introduced as Marcus Webb, immediately started posturing. "This auction can be challenged. Family members manipulating emotional distress." "Stop." Evan cut him off. He spread the evidence across the table like dealing cards. Forged power of attorney, video of Mrs. Hart presenting it, email chains planning the fraud, bank records showing the money trail, FBI complaint against Travis for previous schemes. Each document landed heavier than the last. "The title insurance company is settling Reagan's claim," Evan continued. $230,000. "They're also considering criminal prosecution for fraud." Mom's hand went to her throat. "Criminal. Fraud during military deployment is federal," I said. "Up to 20 years. Travis slumped in his chair. His phone buzzed repeatedly. Investors, probably, wondering why he'd gone silent. "What do you want?" Dad asked finally. "I wanted my house. You took it. We'll buy it back." "With what?" I pulled out their financial summary, compiled by Lena. "You're broke. Everything from my house went into renovations you couldn't afford. You have no savings, maxed credit, and now, no home." "That's our house," Mom said weakly. "Was, just like mine was mine." Marcus Webb tried again. "There must be a solution that doesn't involve prison." I looked at Travis. "Depends on him." Travis's head snapped up. "What?" I pulled out a confession Evan had drafted. 3 pages, detailing Travis's role as the architect of the fraud, how he'd suggested it, forged the documents, created the shell companies, how my parents were merely desperate people who'd trusted their nephew's expertise. "Sign this," I told Travis. Full confession. "Plea deal with the DA for probation, restitution, and you stay away from my family forever. And if I don't, then everyone gets charged. FBI, state, federal. Your 5 other schemes get investigated too." "What about us?" Mom asked. "You cooperate with the investigation, testify if needed, and you walk away." Walk away where Dad's voice cracked. "That's our home. You have 30 days to relocate." The room went silent except for the fluorescent buzz overhead. Travis read the confession, his face cycling through rage, calculation, and defeat. "This admits to everything. Everything you did, yes. I was trying to help them. You were trying to profit. $40,000 traced to your accounts. The new truck. The vacations." Marcus Webb whispered urgently in Travis's ear. Travis shook his head, then nodded, then shook his head again. "I need time to think. Sign now or I call the FBI agent waiting outside." I held up my phone, showing Special Agent Sarah Chen's contact. "She's very interested in your Aurora properties." Travis grabbed the pen, signed with violent strokes. Each page, initialed and dated. Marcus Webb notarized with the reluctance of a man watching his fee evaporate. "Get out," I told Travis. "Don't contact them again. Don't contact me. Disappear into your shell companies and stay there." He left without looking back. My parents remained seated, diminished. The renovated house they'd celebrated a week ago was now their eviction notice. "Reagan," Mom started. "The settlement money from the title company," I interrupted. "When it arrives, I'll give you $20,000. Not because I owe you anything, but because I don't want you homeless." $20,000, Dad laughed bitterly. "We put 40 into renovations. My 40. From my house. That you stole." Evan pushed another document forward. "You'll sign this agreement. No further claims against Reagan. No contact unless she initiates. No discussion of these events publicly." "You're erasing us," Mom said. "I'm protecting myself. The way you should have protected me." They signed. What choice did they have after they left? Evan and I sat in his office while Lena compiled the final report. "The house on Sycamore," Evan said. "What will you do with it? Sell it? Market value? Probably $300,000 with the renovations? They did beautiful work." "With my money." He nodded. "The title settlement should clear in 2 weeks. You'll have over $500,000 when everything settles. Money I'd never wanted. A fortune built on betrayal." "There's one more thing," Lena said, entering with her laptop. "The buyers of your original house. They want out completely. Bad karma, they said. If you want it back." My house. My small, perfect house with its original wood paneling and the spot where I'd planned to build a deck. The graduation photo probably still on the wall. How much? They just want their money back. No profit. I thought about it, returning to that space, knowing what had happened there. Every room tainted with the memory of deception. No, I decided. That life is gone. 2 weeks later, the title money arrived. I sent my parents their $20,000 with no note, no explanation. They cashed it the same day. The Sycamore house sold in 4 days. Young couple, both doctors, loved the renovations. They never needed to know its history. The profit, combined with the title settlement, gave me enough to start over anywhere. I kept flying for Atlas Aeromedical, but I transferred to their Phoenix base. Desert flying. Different from Colorado mountains, but familiar from deployment. Clean heat that burned away everything unnecessary. 6 months later, Lena forwarded me a news clip. Travis had been arrested for fraud in Aurora, different victims. Same schemes. The article mentioned his previous confession in an unnamed family dispute. My parents weren't mentioned. I never looked them up, never checked their social media, never drove by wherever they'd landed with their $20,000 and their boxes of shame. They'd taught me that family was about taking what you could when someone wasn't watching. I'd learned the lesson perfectly. Wait, watch, and when they're celebrating what they stole, take back everything with interest. The new house I bought in Phoenix had better locks, military-grade security. Trust was a luxury I could no longer afford, but at least I could afford everything else. When people asked about my family, I told them the truth. They sold my house while I was deployed. The horror on their faces was always genuine. The follow-up questions, "What did you do?" were harder to answer. "I bought theirs," I'd say, and leave it at that. Because the full truth was both simpler and more complex. They'd stolen my home, so I'd taken theirs. They'd used my absence as opportunity, so I'd used their greed as leverage. They'd thought blood meant permission, but discovered it only meant I knew exactly where to cut. The uniform I'd worn to the auction hung in my closet, cleaned and pressed, a reminder that some battles were fought at altitude, others in courtrooms, and the most devastating ones across conference tables with people who shared your name but not your values. The day before the auction was when everything crystallized into perfect clarity. Travis's text arrived at 6:17 a.m. Reagan's house flipped for 30% profit. Your parents' investment paid off huge. He'd sent it to a group chat that included my mother, father, and 3 other numbers I didn't recognize, probably investors in his other schemes. The hubris of it, the celebration of theft, carved something hollow in my chest that immediately filled with purpose. I screenshot everything before he could delete it. The family meeting that evening was Mom's idea. "We need to clear the air before Monday's auction. she'd said on the phone. Come to the house. Just family. Just family. The phrase tasted like aviation fuel, toxic but necessary for flight. I arrived at 7 p.m. sharp, wearing civilian clothes but carrying myself like I was in uniform. The house blazed with their new lights, every renovation gleaming through windows they'd upgraded to triple pane. Mrs. Calloway was walking her dog, paused to watch me enter. I nodded she'd be subpoenaed if needed. Inside, they'd arranged themselves like a tribunal. Mom and Dad on the new leather couch, Travis in the accent chair they'd bought with my money. On the coffee table also, new lay a folder. We have a proposition. Dad started. I remained standing. I'm listening. Travis opened the folder, pulled out documents. Drop the auction bid. Sign this non-disclosure agreement. We'll give you $50,000 from the next flip. The next flip, I've got investors lined up, 3 properties in Westminster. Your seed money from the house made it possible. My seed money? Mom leaned forward. Reagan, honey, we're trying to make this right. By offering me a fraction of what you stole contingent on Travis's next scam succeeding. It's not a scam, Travis protested. It's real estate investment. I pulled out my phone, started recording openly. Say that again, about using my house as seed money. His face flushed. You can't record. Colorado is a one-party consent state. I kept the phone steady. Continue. Tell me about the investment. They exchanged glances. Dad tried a different approach. We're family. Reagan. Family forgives. Did you forgive my absence when you forged my signature? We were desperate, Mom said. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I pulled out Lena's forensic accounting. November, you're behind on mortgages. December, Travis suggests using my deployment. January, you practice my signature. February, the forgery. March, the sale. April, renovations begin. Each month landed like a hammer strike. You planned this before I even left, I continued. The power of attorney you asked me to sign when I refused, you just created one. That's not, Travis started. I played the audio Lena had recovered from his cloud storage, a voice memo where he walked my mother through the forging process. Remember, the R needs to curve more, like she's in a hurry. Mom's face crumbled. Here's what's going to happen, I said. Monday. I'm taking the house. Travis is confessing to the fraud. You're walking away with what I choose to give you. You can't, Dad said. We'll fight it. With what money? Which lawyer, Marcus Webb, who's about to be disbarred for notarizing forgeries? Travis stood aggressive. You think you're untouchable because you're military? I know people. Sit down. My command voice, the one that cut through rotor noise. He sat. Your people are either fictitious investors or fellow scammers. Your LLCs are shells within shells. The FBI knows about Aurora, Westminster, and the assisted living facility in Pueblo. His mouth opened, closed. That's right. I continued. The Pueblo deal where you convinced elderly residents to sign over their properties for renovation investments. 3 are in nursing homes now. Broke. How did you? I'm thorough. Military planning. We call it intelligence preparation of the battlefield. I turned to my parents. You chose him over me. A con artist nephew over your deployed daughter. We didn't know, Mom whispered. You knew enough. You knew it was wrong. You did it anyway. The silence stretched until the new furnace kicked on high efficiency, variable speed, installed with my money. The auction happens, I said. I win. You leave. Travis confesses or everyone gets arrested. Those are the terms. And if we refuse, Dad asked. I pulled out my final card-printed emails between Travis and a Russian Bitcoin exchange, routing my house money through cryptocurrency to avoid taxes. Then the IRS gets involved. Tax evasion, money laundering, wire fraud, federal prison, not county jail. Travis went pale. That's not what I was just protecting assets, hiding profits. The IRS won't care about your semantics. Mom started crying. Not dramatic sobs, but quiet tears that she didn't wipe away. We loved you, she said. You loved my stability, my reliability, my absence. That's not fair. Fair, I laughed, sharp as rotor blades. Was it fair when I was pulling wounded soldiers out of burning vehicles while you were measuring my kitchen for demolition? Dad stood, walked to the window. Outside, Mrs. Calloway was still watching, pretending to check her phone. What happens after? He asked. After Monday. Nothing. You disappear from my life. I continue flying. We become strangers who share DNA. Reagan. Mom reached for me. I stepped back. Don't. You lost that right when you walked into that notary office with a forged document and my stolen future. Travis tried one last angle. The market's good now. Your house is worth more. Stop talking. I turned to leave, then paused. Monday, 10 a.m. Courthouse steps. Bring cashier's checks if you want to bid, though we all know you spent everything already. At the door, I looked back at them 3 people who'd raised me, shaped me, and ultimately taught me the most valuable lesson of my life: trust is earned in increments and lost in totality. Enjoy your last weekend here, I said. Take photos. The renovations are beautiful. Outside, Mrs. Calloway approached. Reagan, dear, are you all right? I will be Monday. She patted my arm. Good for you. Some things can't be forgiven. I drove back to my motel, past my old house where strangers now lived, past the flight school where I'd learned that altitude provides perspective, past the recruiting office where I'd signed up to serve something larger than family greed. Lena had texted, recording uploaded to cloud, 3 backups. Webb just called, wants to negotiate. Evan had emailed, DA confirms immunity deal ready for Travis's confession. Federal charges pending if he refuses. Monday would be public, brutal, and final. The auction room would witness a family detonation, choreographed by their own avarice and my methodical revenge. I opened my laptop, reviewed the creditor documents one more time. $73,000 in liens against their property. $8,000 in my savings. $81,000 total to bid with more than enough to win. More than enough to take everything. They'd sold my house while I saved lives in combat. In 36 hours, I'd own theirs while they watched. The math was perfect. The justice was poetic. The revenge was precisely what they'd earned. The afternoon sun slanted through the windows of 47 Sycamore Lane, the house that used to be theirs. I stood in the entryway, holding the new keys that had been delivered an hour ago, North Peak Capital embossed on the keychain. The renovations they'd done with my money were impressive, I had to admit. Every surface gleamed with newness, every upgrade precisely what they'd dreamed of but could never afford. Until they stole from me. The eviction crew had been efficient. 30 days after the auction, my parents' belongings were stacked on the lawn, covered in blue tarps as morning dew turned to afternoon heat. They'd taken what would fit in Dad's truck and Mom's sedan. The rest, the old furniture they'd replaced. Boxes of memories. Dad's lesser tools waited for whoever would claim them. They weren't coming back. The $20,000 I'd given them had secured a rental in Kansas, where Mom's sister lived, far enough away to ensure our paths wouldn't cross accidentally. I walked through the house, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood they'd refinished. The kitchen island where they'd hosted their celebration party sat empty now, the granite cold under my palm. The workshop Dad had built in the garage still smelled like sawdust and varnish. The master bathroom with its spa tub and rain shower held no personal items, just the lingering scent of expensive renovations. In what had been their bedroom, a single photo lay forgotten on the closet shelf. Our family at my high school graduation. Mom, Dad, and me, standing in front of the school. I was already looking beyond the camera, toward something they couldn't see. Even then, I was leaving. I left it there. Lena arrived with the final paperwork. The house had already sold cash offer, quick closing, 15% above market value thanks to the renovations. $345,000, she said, handing me the documents. After paying off the first mortgage and fees, you'll net about $200,000. Combined with the title insurance settlement from your original house, $520,000 total. I finished. More money than I'd ever imagined having. The price of betrayal, multiplied by compound interest. Travis pled guilty yesterday, Lena added. 2 years probation, $100,000 in restitution to his elderly victims. He's barred from real estate transactions for life. And my parents, witnesses for the prosecution. They testified via video deposition. Clean slate legally, but... She shrugged. Small towns talk. Everyone knows what they did. I signed the sale documents, each signature my real one, not the forgery they'd tried to perfect. The buyers would move in next week, a young family, the husband a veteran like me. They'd never know the house's history, only that it was beautiful and available. What's next? Lena asked. I fly tomorrow. Air ambulance run to Denver. I meant with the money. I'd thought about it during the long nights in my Phoenix apartment. There's a nonprofit that helps veterans secure housing. They're getting a large anonymous donation. All of it, most, keeping enough for a down payment on something small? Something mine. Lena smiled. Your parents will never know. They'll never know anything about my life again. She left me alone in the house for a final moment. I stood in the living room, where that photo of our family had once hung, now just a rectangle of slightly darker paint. They'd erased me first, thinking deployment meant disappearance, absence meant permission. They were wrong. I set the keys on the granite counter they'd chosen with my money. The new owners could pick them up from the real estate agent. I wouldn't be back. Outside. Mrs. Calloway was tending her garden. She looked up as I passed. All finished, dear, all finished. They got what they deserved, she said. Not a question. They got what they earned. The drive to the airport took me past familiar landmarks, the diner where Dad taught me to calculate tips, the park where Mom had pushed me on swings, the library where I'd studied for my pilot's license while they complained about the cost of flight school. At a red light. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Kansas area code. I deleted it without listening to the voicemail. The helicopter waited on the tarmac, rotors still, mechanical and honest. No hidden agendas, no family complications, just physics and fuel, lift and wait. I performed my pre-flight check, each step a meditation in precision. Where we heading? My co-pilot asked. Denver Children's Hospital, critical transport. Weather looks rough over the mountains. We'll manage, we always do. As we lifted off, Phoenix spreading below us, I thought about the last time I'd seen my parents. The auction room, their faces when the gavel fell, Mom's tears, Dad's stunned silence, Travis's desperate typing on his phone trying to find money that didn't exist. Sold to North Peak Capital, 3 words that transferred everything they'd built with my betrayal into my hands. I'd stood, walked to the clerk, signed the papers with my true signature while they watched. When I turned around, they were already leaving. Mom supported between Dad and Travis, their family unit intact but broken, together but destroyed. I never said goodbye. Neither did they. Now, at 8,000 feet, heading into storm clouds that would test every skill I'd learned, I felt something I hadn't experienced since finding that stranger in my house peace. They'd sold my home while I was serving my country, saving lives in combat zones. I'd bought theirs from under them in broad daylight, in a room full of witnesses, completely legally. They'd taught me that family was transactional. I'd simply completed the transaction. The turbulence hit as we crossed the mountains, the helicopter bucking against wind shear. I adjusted, compensated, flew through it. Below, the ground was invisible, lost in clouds and rain. But I knew where I was going. I always did. My parents were in Kansas now, in a rental, with $20,000 and the knowledge that their daughter had become exactly what they'd shown her to be. Someone who takes what she's owed, who uses the system to her advantage, who doesn't forgive. They'd stolen my house. I'd taken theirs. The math was simple. The revenge was complete. The family was over. And I was finally, definitively, free. Thank you for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. What would you have done in Reagan's situation? Your perspectives make these stories come alive.